So I want to talk a little bit about a man's relationship. I'm going to call him John. Right? We'll just generalize him as John, right? As in like Dear John letters or John Doe. John is struggling in his marriage. He is trying to keep his wife happy. He's trying to avoid her upset, her moods. He's trying to avoid the discomfort of feeling like he's done something wrong. He's trying to play it safe. And in fact, he's playing small. A lot of times he is shrinking, hiding, withdrawing. He's avoiding her because he's avoiding her mood. He's avoiding his own discomfort. He thinks it's about her, but it's really about him. It's about what's going on inside of him in response to what's happening outside of him. And he's frustrated with his outside because he wants it to be different. He wants the discomfort to stop. But if he has to get the outside to be different for him to feel okay inside, then now he's in a very precarious place. He's in a place where now he is dependent on someone or something outside of him to be different for him to be okay, which really puts him in this place of feeling powerless, choiceless, dependent. He really feels like someone else is in control of his life. And that can cause one of two reactions. He can either be really angry, and some degree of angry is frustrated, confused, aggravated, upset, right? These are all varying degrees of the same word, the same emotion. He can either be angry or he can be sad. Now, when he's sad, he's either sad, melancholy, depressed, right? He feels low. Both of these reactions to his thoughts are basically giving him this emotional state because he feels like he's believing, right, that he's powerless, that he's choiceless, that he's dependent on someone or something else to be different for him to be okay. And that really bothers him. It doesn't make him feel safe. It doesn't make him feel like he owns his life. It doesn't feel like he owns himself. In fact, it damages his self-trust, his self-confidence, his self-respect. He feels like someone else is in control of his life. But what he doesn't realize is that he's actually experiencing his own thoughts about what's going on. His thoughts, he's agreeing to. His thoughts, he's believing. He's saying, I don't have power. This other person holds the keys. They're the one who's making me feel this way, right? He's taking his thoughts and his feelings about those thoughts, and then he's projecting them onto someone else. He's blaming someone else for them. Now, this is natural. It's normal, right? Because we're on the inside looking out. And then when we have a thought about what someone says or someone does outside of us, then naturally we associate the internal feeling with the external thing. But we don't realize that our thoughts are what is contributing, what's creating this feeling that we have inside of our body, right? Our feelings aren't happening outside of us, they're happening inside of us. And so in order for that to change, we either need the outside to change, right? We want our feelings to change, we need the outside to change, or we need the inside to change. And we need the inside to change being our thoughts about what's going on. Because at any given moment, if we believe that we're not okay, then we're going to feel unsafe, we're going to feel unsettled, we're going to feel unsure, right? We're going to have an anxious, an anxiety, a tension in our body. But if we, in that same moment, if we believe that we're okay, right? If we think, oh, I'm fine, then what's going to happen is we're going to relax. We're going to relax. We're going to let go of that tension. We're not going to have that anxiety. And we're going to be able to open up to and see the birds, the squirrels, the sunshine, right? The weather. We're going to be more present here, right, in the world than we are in here. When we're up in our head, up in the attic, right, that dusty, moldy, dark, scary place, that's when we feel unsettled, unsure, unsafe. So we need to become aware of our thoughts. John needs to become aware of his thoughts. He needs to become aware of the fact how his thoughts make him feel and how those feelings push him around. Because once he has those feelings, he wants to move, he wants to do, right? He wants to push back against whatever he believes is the source of his feelings. And so he's going to want to act, right? He's going to want to say things and do things that are going to try to make this discomfort go away. He's trying to get back to homeostasis. He's trying to get back to a place where he feels okay again. He doesn't feel upset or unsettled. And when we do that, we say and do things. We even think things about people and circumstances that may not be true, right? We build a story, we build a narrative, we rail against it, we become upset about it, right? And even though we may not act on those thoughts, we still present a version of ourselves to that other person. We present a frustrated, resentful, hurt, scared version of ourselves to that person, and that's the version of us that we get. So we may think that we've done nothing in response to what someone has said, but we are in effect giving that person a version of ourselves that we don't like, that we're not enjoying, that the other person is reacting to, and then we're reacting to them reacting to us. I mean, can you see how that cycle works? That someone says something, and then we have a thought about it, and then we have feelings about it, and then we get tension in our body, and then we give this person this upset, angry, anxious, nervous, afraid version of ourselves to them, and then they're like, oh, that feels weird, I don't like that. You know, like they have all kind of thoughts about how we're being, and then they're giving a version to us, and then we're observing their version, and we're going like, why are you being weird? And inside, if they had the words, they'd be able to say, well, I don't know, why are you being weird, right? Because we're reacting to them, reacting to us, reacting to, to back and forth we go. So this is where we want to take a deep breath, right? We want to take a breath and say, hold on, let me slow down. Let me slow down. What's really going on here? What's really happening? What am I thinking about? What am I believing? What story am I telling myself about this situation, and how is that affecting me? Am I pulling back? Am I shutting down? Am I withdrawing? Am I afraid of the other person's emotions? Am I afraid of my own emotions? Can I feel something bubbling up in me and I keep tamping it down and pressing it down because I'm avoiding conflict, I'm avoiding being bad, I'm avoiding saying the wrong thing, I'm avoiding just being kind of maybe a little bit out of control, that I feel kind of anxious and nervous and shaky, that when I really want to say, I think about saying what I really want to say, I get all kind of, like I feel like I want to throw up and all anxious and weird. And so we could take those emotions, right? We can press it, we just press it down in our body. And then we're confused as to why these situations kind of grow and build and get awkward and weird and everything. And there's a weirdness and awkwardness on both sides. And what we don't realize is that when it finally explodes, right, when we finally come to this point where we finally say something we want to say, right? Maybe we finally get full, right? We finally get full, and then we say things that we don't necessarily want to say, right? But they've been building for a long time, and you finally say something. And then the other person, they've got their own like compressed feelings and everything. So they kind of like, buh. And then we can be like, oh, this is bad, this is wrong, right? Like it didn't go well. This is the kind of thing that John will say to me in a message, right? Like, this didn't go well. The conversation didn't go well, right? This is bad. But what he doesn't realize is that this has been building for a while. All of this has been building for a while, and it's needed to come to the surface. That at some point, as gross as it's going to sound, at some point we have to prick the boil, right? At some point we have to remove the pus, the toxins from the system in order for healing to begin. And so when we prick that boil, that when we have that conversation, when the bubble of emotions that we have eventually pop, then things start coming to the surface, right? We start having more honest conversations, but they're uncomfortable, and we want to shrink from them because we're avoiding that discomfort, and we're avoiding her mood, and we're avoiding our own feelings, and We're living in such a small, tiny little space that our chest is tight and we have all this tension that we're carrying in our body, and it's just not the way that we want to live, right? It's just not the way we want to live. And I know this because I went through this myself, right? I lived through this. I know this because every man that I talk to says the same thing. He says some version of the same thing, right? He says, I don't know if I want the next 20 years to be like the last 20 years. I'm tired of this. I'm confused. I'm frustrated. I'm feeling resentful, right? And a word that comes up all the time, it came up for me and it comes up for other men too, is exhausted. I'm exhausted, right? Exhausted, not just exhausted like I'm tired, but he feels exhausted. He feels depleted, right? He has a hard time having empathy for her because his own pain is so loud. And even as I say that, you might be thinking, empathy for her, what are you talking about, right? She's the one that's being shitty, right? She's the one that's being a 14-year-old girl. She's the one that's being mean. That's because she's got pain, right? That's because she's hurt too, and she doesn't know how to get out of it, and it frustrates her too, and she's confused as well. And when we're hurt, it's hard for us to see that. It's hard for us to hold space for that. You know, when she says something, we take it personally, then we get hurt, then we say something to her, she takes it personally, then she gets hurt, and then back and forth. Now we got two hurt people sharing their pain with each other, but neither one's actually hearing each other, right? They're not actually hearing what each other's saying, because they're like, no, you're not hearing my pain. And the other person says, no, you're not hearing my pain, right? And we have this standoff. So these types of things sometimes just erupt because they haven't been addressed, because they haven't been handled. And that one of the things that John has to learn to do is lead that process. Lead those conversations. Be honest about what it is that he thinks, what it is that he wants, what it is that he'll agree to, what he won't agree to, what his boundaries are, what he values as a man, what's important to him, what's his non-negotiables. What is it that he just won't live with? What is it that he wants for himself? What is he inviting her into? What kind of life does he want to build for himself, and who does he want to be in it? Who does he want to go with him on this journey through his life? And these are the types of things that I talk with John about. These are the type of things that I talk with men about. I talk with men in my community about these things. We do it on coaching calls, either individual coaching calls, group coaching calls. We do it in courses. I have books. We have retreats. We have in-person meetups here in the Austin area. So if you find yourself in this place where you recognize yourself as John, you recognize the things that I said for yourself as something that resonates with you, and you know it's time for something to change in your life, but you just don't know how to go through it, and you find yourself shrinking, getting small, pulling back, withdrawing, shutting down, whenever she gets mad, whenever she's upset, whenever she seems to be in a mood, that she just doesn't, these days she just doesn't seem happy about anything, that she only gives you one-word answers to questions, and anytime that you walk into the room, she seems to walk out, or worse, she seems to stand there and criticize you. Everything that you do, you can't seem to be right no matter what it is that you do. If she says, you never listen to me, then she criticizes you for being around too much, and she says she needs space. If you give her space, she says, you never listen to me and you don't care. And you just feel like, well, how do I win, right? And that's another part of this problem, is that we have this win or lose mentality, and it doesn't have to be that way. I can tell you, it does not have to be that way, but we need some different thoughts. We need some different beliefs, because right now what we're doing is we're reacting to our beliefs, we're reacting to our thoughts. That's creating feelings in us, and then we are doing and saying things that we're not happy about to try to keep the peace, but it's not keeping the peace at all. In fact, if anything, it's getting worse. It gets worse until eventually something breaks. And oftentimes, if unaddressed, that can be divorce. That can be complete annihilation of the relationship, of the marriage. It dissolves to the point where it's not repairable. But that's not you, right now, if these things are going on, you and I need to talk. We need to have a conversation and find out what's really going on in your relationship. Let's bring the truth to the surface. Let's really see what's going on. Let's talk about your stories, what your beliefs are. Let's bring these things to the surface so that you can have better thoughts about what's going on, so you can start to master yourself. Because again, if you need the outside to change so that your insides can be good, then you're going to be in a really tight spot. But as soon as you know that you can lead this conversation, that you can lead yourself and her to a better version of a relationship, and that you can create the life that you want for yourself, that you have personal power, then everything changes. The whole relationship changes, the marriage changes, things improve, and you stop living small, and you stop having all that anxiety and stress and tension in your body. So go to happymancoaching.com, fill out my coaching request form. Let's talk on the phone. This is our opportunity to talk man to man. You get to share with me the things that are going on that you don't have anybody else to talk to about. And this is your opportunity to unravel this hairball for yourself. I also have courses on my website. There's the community that you can join. I can introduce you to a community of men who are doing this work for themselves and improving their life and their relationships. And there's also my divorce bomb. My divorce bomb recovery book is on the website. That's now available. You can get that, read through that, and then let's talk. All right, brother. happymancoaching.com. I'll talk to you soon.